Greetings from the Book Whisper. Every story is a journey into a world of love, passion, deception, and self-discovery. Close your eyes, let the sounds carry you away, and may this story touch your heart. Paper Tigers. Chicago in November wasn't a city but a machine for manufacturing melancholy. The cold wind from Lake Michigan sharpened the skyscrapers like a glass cutter, and the gray sky pressed people to the ground. Sophia stepped out of the elevator into the lobby of her Gold Coast condo, adjusting her gloves. She was the picture of restrained elegance, a cashmere coat, a perfect bun, a gaze that could freeze a storm in a teacup, but inside, everything had contracted into a cold, heavy lump. She wasn't heading to work at her architecture firm, she was going to meet a private investigator. Her husband, Henry, founder of a successful cybersecurity startup, had been emanating not fatigue, but detachment for the past 3 months, and not just him. Their best friend, Ava, an actress at a local theater, seemed to have dissolved into thin air. Their inseparable trio of 7 years since their Northwestern days was disintegrating before her eyes, and Sophia felt like the last one to notice the smoke, long since turned to flame. The investigator, a dry man named Lucas, sat in a darkened corner of the cafe. He placed a thin folder in front of her. "As you requested, Mrs. Reed, just the facts, but sometimes facts are the most dangerous fiction." Sophia opened the folder. There were no lurid motel photos. There were printouts of messages from an encrypted messenger app that Henry, irony of fate, had helped develop, a dialogue between him and Ava. Sophia read, and the world narrowed to the lines on paper. This wasn't the correspondence of lovers. There was no passion, no hints of dates. It was a dialogue between two people bound by fear. "Henry, she suspects something, asked yesterday about my frequent calls to you. Ava, hold on, we're so close, don't change anything, she can't know. Henry, it's getting hard to carry this, every day. Ava, we carry it together, for him, you know it's the only way. For him, who, what were they carrying?" The intrigue had taken shape, but it had no face. This wasn't infidelity in the classical sense, it was a conspiracy, against her. The passion she expected to find, anger, jealousy, was replaced by an icy, intellectual cold. They were hiding something that bound them tighter than any intimate bond. The disappointment wasn't in her husband, but in her friend, Ava, who knew all her weaknesses, who had laughed with her until they cried, who called her sister. Every recent meeting, every one of Ava's smiles now appeared to Sophia as a masterful mask. Intrigue became her oxygen. She cancelled all meetings, pleading illness, and plunged into the investigation. She started small. She checked their joint financial reports, flawless. She went through old photos, letters, and she found it, not evidence, but an anomaly. A year ago, after a party celebrating Henry's successful funding round, Ava had been in a minor car accident, a slight wrist injury, but that same day, according to an old text Sophia had forgotten to delete, Henry had urgently left on a 2-day business trip, to New York. She checked there were no records of tickets or hotel bookings for that period in their shared accounts. He had vanished for 48 hours. She called the hospital where she thought Ava had been treated. She was transferred 3 times before a tired voice confirmed, yes, Ava Harper had been admitted with a wrist injury, but she was discharged that same evening. There was no reason for Henry's 2-day absence. Sophia drove to the address of the studio Ava rented in Logan Square, not to confront, but to observe. She saw Ava come out, not alone. With her was a boy, about 6 or 7. He was animatedly telling her something, waving his hands, and Ava listened, head tilted, with a tenderness Sophia had only ever seen on Henry's face when he looked at old childhood photos. A click, the roar of gears falling into place in her mind. For him, the boy, her next move was desperate and brilliant. She hired a second detective, specifically to watch the boy. 3 days later, the report came. The boy's name was Leo. He lived with Ava, attended a private school. Every other Saturday, he was picked up by a man. The photo was blurry, but the silhouette, the posture, it was Henry. A DNA test was impossible, but the dates formed a monstrous equation. 7 years ago, their trio had gone through a rough patch. Henry and Ava had worked on a theater tech project together. There were long evenings spent together, And then Ava had suddenly left for Europe for 6 months, saying she'd received a grant. Sophia understood everything: love, betrayal, but not the kind that came and went, the kind that gave birth to a secret, a child. Henry and Ava were Leo's parents, and for all these 7 years, they had carried this secret, building an entire life of lies around it, with her, Sophia, at the center. Infertile Sophia, who after 2 miscarriages had closed herself off in her pain, pushing her husband into the arms, no, not into the arms of her friend, into the arms of his child's mother. There was no rage, there was emptiness, and a new, cunning thought: they were afraid she would find out, that she would take half of Henry's fortune in a rage, that she would destroy their fragile world. Well, she would give them exactly that fear, but she wouldn't act on it. She began her play. That same Saturday when Henry was supposed to pick up Leo, Sophia accidentally appeared at the cafe across from the school. She didn't look at them, she sat, drinking a latte, reading a book on child psychology which she placed cover up. She knew Ava, who picked the boy up first, would see her. The effect was instantaneous. That evening, Henry came home pale. He was unnaturally attentive, almost fussy. "Is everything alright, darling? You look pensive." "Me? No," she smiled at him with an empty, distant smile. "Just reading, about children, about missed opportunities." She watched the shadows of guilt and horror flitted across his face. The next day, Ava came over, with a box of expensive chocolates. Her visit was unnatural, full of strained laughter and anxious pauses. "Sophia, you haven't visited me in ages, maybe you could come over sometime, just to chat?" "Absolutely," Sophia said, looking her straight in the eye. "I'm very interested to see how you live, your whole life." Ava fell silent, and in her eyes, Sophia saw pure panic. The intrigue was working. She was sowing chaos without uttering a single direct accusation. She started bringing home brochures about adoption, surrogacy, accidentally leaving them in plain sight. She talked on the phone with a friend in front of Henry about how important it was to know the truth in a relationship, however bitter. They were losing their minds. Henry couldn't work. Ava canceled a play, citing loss of voice. Their secret, which they had guarded so carefully, had become their cage. Sophia held the key and merely rattled it, never opening the door. The climax came 2 weeks later. Henry, with dark circles under his eyes, walked into the living room. "We need to talk, Sophia." She set her book aside. "I'm listening." He gasped, the words coming with agonizing difficulty. "Ava and we did something terrible, many years ago, one time, one mistake." Sophia remained silent, letting him drown in that silence. "From that mistake there's a consequence, a child, a boy, Leo." She allowed a look of shock, long since burnt out inside, to appear on her face. "Your son." He nodded, unable to speak. "I didn't know how to tell you. All these years Ava asked me to keep quiet. She was afraid you'd destroy us, destroy his life. We just wanted to protect him." "From me," Sophia said quietly. "Me, who loved you. Me, who thought of her as a sister. I was the monster in your fairy tale." "No, that's not true." But his protest was weak. "What are you proposing?" she asked, her voice cold and businesslike. I'll leave you everything, just let us be part of his life, officially. I want to be his father." There it was, the fear they had nurtured, the fear of losing the child, the money, the reputation, and their offer of surrender. Sophia stood up and walked to the window. Chicago burned with evening lights. "I know, Henry, I've known for a month." He froze. "What?" "I know about Leo. I've been watching you. I read your messages. You weren't afraid I'd destroy your life out of jealousy. You were afraid I'd destroy it coldly, by the book, and you were right, I could have." She turned to him. "But I don't want your money, and I don't want to destroy a boy's life." Hope flickered on his face, pitiful and touching. "One condition," she continued, "we get divorced, cleanly, quietly. You transfer this condo to me and pay an agreed sum, not half your fortune, but exactly enough for me to start something new. The rest is yours, for your son. You and Ava do what you should have done 7 years ago, you become a family, you tell him the truth, you live with it out in the open. And you," he whispered, "I disappear from your story, completely. You don't try to justify yourselves to me, You don't write, you don't call, you erase me, and I erase you. He stared at her, not understanding. This wasn't the revenge he had expected, it was something more terrifying, mercy akin to surgical amputation. Why, was all he could utter. Because I lived for 7 years in a play where I was the main character, only to find out I was a supporting player in someone else's drama. I'm tired of it. My exit is the only scene I'll write for myself. She left the room. The divorce proceeded according to her script. Henry, stunned and grateful, agreed to everything. Ava sent one single letter with 2 words, "I'm sorry, thank you." Sophia did not reply. She sold the Gold Coast condo and bought a loft in an old industrial district. She opened a small studio where she designed not skyscrapers, but children's playgrounds and libraries. One day, passing a newsstand, she saw a photograph, in the society column, Henry and Ava at a charity gala. They were smiling. Between them, in a serious little suit, stood Leo, holding their hands. The caption read, "The Reed Harper Family, a love story crowned by a long-awaited reunion." Sophia bought the newspaper. She went to her empty, bright studio, sat on the floor by the huge window. She looked at the photograph of these 3 people, at their happy faces built on the ruins of her life. And then she began to laugh, a quiet, soundless laugh that sent tears streaming down her cheeks. She laughed at the genius of her finale. They thought she had lost by leaving, they thought they had won, getting everything, but they were forever stuck in that play, the play of secrecy, guilt, and compulsory happiness. Their love would always be shadowed by the woman who had stood between them. Their passion would be warmed by the distrust of those 7 years of lies. Their family was built on the foundation of her silent consent. She, however, was free, completely, absolutely, terrifyingly free. She had erased herself from their narrative and could now write her own story from a blank page, without lies, without fear, without the ghosts of someone else's child and someone else's guilt. The wind howled outside the window, chasing the first snow down the street. Sophia wiped her tears, set the newspaper aside, and walked over to her drafting table. Before her lay a sketch, a design for an unusual, airy children's library in the shape of a ship, for unknown children in an unknown city. She picked up a pencil. The story, at last, was beginning. Dear listeners of the Book Whisper, we hope you've been left with a lasting impression. We're constantly searching for new stories to share with you. Don't miss what's next. Subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Give us a like if you'd love more audiobooks like this. Until our next meeting on the pages of our tales.